Made of Savannah podcast, a storytelling platform for the greatest city in the world. I'm your host, Dee Daniels. Made of Savannah is brought to you by Corcoran Austin Hill Realty, a progressive, inclusive, multi-generational company serving Greater Savannah since 1978. This is officially our Halloween episode, so welcome to it. Sit back, get ready. I'm so excited to welcome my guest, the guest of so many names, Shannon Spencer Scott, Dr. Buzzard, the ghost tour storyteller, I believe also the minister of stories, if I'm getting that correctly, labeled right, hallelujah, holy hell, I don't know. But here we are. Shannon, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. And the term that I coined, which is catching on, I'd hope that it would, is I'm really the storyist.
Ooh.
So it's story-ist.
I like that.
And I think that it's kind of the blend of storyteller and historian.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's a good title.
Thanks.
Now, you've been hanging around Savannah for quite some time now. SCAD on, right?
32 years in a sense. Like a lot of Midwesterners got a scholarship to come to SCAD, and it was a very different school then. It was just mostly Midwesterners, actually. And, I was already enamored with the Low Country. That was really what romanced me in. SCAD was kind of the excuse to get here. But the school's just very different. And it was kind of that time when it was in a lot of upheaval. So I kind of fell out of love with, not what it represented, but just my experience there was not great. I think it was, I was called to do something else. And that became all the pursuit of things of the Low Country and getting into the aesthetic, the history, the culture, the vibe.
Yeah.
So it was almost the mission anyway. It just, SCAD got me here.
Yeah. You have certainly been recognized all over the place regarding tours and just your depth of knowledge. And was that something you wanted to do from an early age, be quite the storyteller?
Yes. I think it was because my curious, sleuthish nature would get me into trouble with my parents and, sneaking into abandoned hotels or old car dealerships. And I got paddled a lot.
Yeah.
But I would always try to spin a good story to get out of it. And my mom was not buying it. My dad wasn't buying it. God love them. They were just really tolerant and accepting in ways, but also good parents.
Right.
But yeah, because they were school teachers, I always say that we did like the Griswold thing in the summer. They had 2-3 months off, and they would take my brother Jay and I across the country and expose us to a lot of the national parks and state parks, and of course historic sites. So that just kind of became part of the bloodstream and the palette of imagination. And so I always say that I'm not very fond of the modern world. Like, to me, proof of life is age or a little defect or a little wrinkle. So that's the stuff that appeals to me. I get grounded in those kinds of places or environments. So they're almost like magnets to my soul. So Savannah was a giant magnet.
I was going to say, that must have felt super like, yep, this is where I need to be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, it's quite a cool place, and it is a magnet, and there's so many things that bring so many people to it. And everyone, once you're visiting for, I don't care, maybe, once, twice, you want to find a tour. That's just how it is. And you want to immerse yourself. Most people want to learn the backstory of the things. And it sounds like that's what you're super passionate about. You have so many tours people can choose from. I want to ask you, well, first you've got a big one that's obviously starting tomorrow, 5 nights of Halloween, and this is going to be a big deal, and Bonaventure is a huge deal. But I super want to ask you about your adults only taboo tour. Is that, I heard you did something like that. That's the kind of taboo stories at Bonaventure. Is that?
Well, I think it's like this. If you take a private tour with me of any variety, I pretty much open the tour with, you can't offend me. History, is offensive on its own or whatever. So whatever you want to talk about, ask me, just do it. I will tell you.
Right.
I will give you the truth. So there's always that in the mix of anything that I do. But Probably the most adult tour that I do, and it's a private tour. I've not figured out how to do it publicly, but it's called Good and Evil X. And it's dedicated to anything and everything Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, but not like the blue-haired ladies version. No offense, blue-haired ladies.
Right.
But, it's not Grandma's Good and Evil X tour. It's really the adult version, namely because I had closeness and proximity to a lot of the characters, from Jim Williams and knowing him to Joe Odom and Barry Thomas and Mandy or Nancy Hillis, and just all those people were like surrogate family members. So, I saw things, heard things directly, and really just kind of developed a private tour out of it, which does or can include Bonaventure. It can be strictly the city or the historic district, but, Bonaventure is where a lot of those characters are buried, and it's neat to go see those graves and tell some stories graveside. But that's really it. I mean, Bonaventure Cemetery and the After Hours program, which is a part of that 5 Nights of Halloween component. I mean, you're definitely getting, the offbeat, macabre, left of center, and envelope pushing, storytelling. So that would be considered an adult thing. I mean, I always mark in my advertising that it's ages 18 and up as a caution light. It's just, I don't want to push it as a family tour or like a kiddie tour. It's for the right, guardian and the right, younger person. But nothing too, probably, I mean, what they find mostly when they take it is that I'm tame by comparison to the rest of the world.
Right.
But I like mature audiences. I like people who are smart and intelligent and have some depth or whatever. It's not really for the general audience. So I have the bar higher.
I like that. In the episode notes, you'll find the link to shannonscotttours.com. That's a place to check out all the things we're talking about, including the 5 Nights of Halloween, which is, it sounds like such a huge deal, and it kicks off tomorrow. People still able to get tickets to this and be a part of this?
Yes. There are some tickets remaining for the various events. We've sold out really the past 4 years in a row. And I never really expected to become like the Santa Claus to Halloween,
right?
But I have by default, which is fine. But
congratulations!
Thank you. It's very taxing and keeps me busy in the workshop.
Yeah.
But it just started out as like, hey, because I remember the days when Halloween was really dull around Savannah, and I mean, I remember going to a nightclub one time on a Saturday night. Halloween had been the night before, and I was dressed out in a costume. And the doorman was like, "Hey, Halloween was last night, buddy."
Oh, no.
And had I not known the owner of the club, I probably wouldn't have gotten in just because I was in a costume on the weekend. I'm like, wait. If Halloween's on a Friday night, it means it's all weekend.
Hello.
It doesn't just go away. And, if you look at the traditional, Irish culture or whatever, there are many, related days. So to me, I'm like thinking historian and traditionalism or whatever, but it finally grew up, it's like it came back, and which is great because Savannah had always embraced Halloween until like the suburbia thing happened in the mid 20s, kind of went to the suburbs and left downtown. Now it's back. SCAD's certainly a big component of that with the art students dressing out. But I just kind of was like, what can I do? And so Bonaventure After Hours became the start. And then I added the dinner and the cemetery program where you could do the 3-hour lantern tour, get the dinner, get some entertainment, get some cool prizes. So it just kind of built from there. And now we're at 5 Nights of Halloween. I don't know if I'll ever push it to 7, but, this year it's 5.
I could see it happening. I could see it being, welcome here now with everybody just looking for something fun to do and something different and something like, okay, I want to kind of get the details, the inside scoop and that sort of thing. So yeah, go to the website. Best place to purchase tickets, I'm assuming shannonscotttours.com.
Yeah, shannonscotttours.com. Okay. They can also go to 5nightsofhalloween.com, which is the number 5 Nights of Halloween.
Yeah, perfect. And then, check all of that out. And I know you can't give all the stories away before the 5 Nights of Halloween, but I'm very interested in kind of like a zoom out, your take on Bonaventure. Why Bonaventure? What's the history for those who have never been to Bonaventure yet? And, are saying, well, I'm going to be visiting Savannah next year, or, I would like to go that. Why Bonaventure? I mean, it is just thick with all kinds of things. I feel a very good vibe in Bonaventure. I've been a handful of times and I love it.
Yes, and I think that's, if I'm being very personal and straight with you, it's a very positive energy place. It's a very replenishing place. Everything there feels to me mostly at peace. So that's a beautiful thing, because there are a lot of souls there that struggled and died tragically, and and I'm aware of that, and I always try to bear that in mind. Speak no ill of the dead, but aesthetically, it's a part of that great garden landscape era of the Victorian age. And I've been to a lot of beautiful cemeteries worldwide. I've been very blessed, but Bonaventure stands out, namely because of the landscape. It's that river context. It's the marshes. It's the ancient live oaks. Some are older than the colony of Georgia. Swaying moss, a breeze if you can get it. And at night, of course, the moon, the stars, the sun sets, the sun rises. It's just all quite spectacular. And then you throw in a little grandiose art, because, Savannahians were not overall ostentatious with their expression. There's some of that, but it's not like Cuba, South America, France, Italy, New York, other places. It's like the families had money, but some were very conservative with how they expressed it in the cemetery. But others were they spent bank. So there is some of that high monument stuff, which is great. But its appeal is, I think it's just beauty. It's just beauty for the flaws of that, for the attempts at perfection at that. It's just all there, kind of aging. So that's kind of it. I mean, the old saying is, it's an old saying from the Victorian age. You've not been to Savannah till you've been to Bonaventure.
Right.
And that goes back into the Victorian age itself. So that stayed in the kind of the spirit of the people, and then passed on to the newbies and the visitors. And so for even people that don't understand, why would I go to a cemetery? It's answered immediately when you walk through the gates.
Yeah.
30 seconds in, you're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I remember the first time we went, and I was just like, oh, wow. And we just sort of stood in the front in the front area for 10 minutes. I was just like, this is crazy and cool. And it makes you want to be a photographer immediately. It makes you pull out your phone and just start taking pictures. The way the light hits different in every spot at different points of the day. You're right. I mean, it's just beautiful. And of course you can get lost super easy.
Yes.
So I don't know. I can't imagine going in without a map or something still. Cause I'm like,
well,
where are we?
Sure. And I will point any listeners to something in advance that will be a helpful thing. And that's the Bonaventure illustrated map, which I was proudly a consultant in the design of. My buddy Michael Karpovage of Karpovage Creative. He's a novelist and a map maker. And when I had a publishing company in the 90s and early 2000s, that's what I did for 7 years. I made maps.
Wow.
And namely because the maps had been so bad for Savannah. And a buddy of mine who managed the Gallery Espresso at the time, Taylor Martin, he just graduated in graphic design, and we were buddies from the coffee house, stands. But he just said, hey, man, what do you think of Savannah's maps? And I was like, they suck. And he goes, you want to make a better map? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I actually had been blessed with being able to take a year off. I just left a chef job and decided this is what I was going to do. It was just automatic. So we had a lot of fun. We made the Savannah and Tybee map for 2 years, the Savannah map of antiques dealers for 5. The Savannah map of art galleries for a couple of years. And these, as far as maps went, these were some of the first that ever showed area below Forsyth Park, Tybee. I mean, it was really, we were trying to be the ultimate map and get tourists to go into areas that weren't yet touristy areas like Starland.
Right.
We did all that. We were very proud of it. It was ambitious. The Bonaventure illustrated map, I'm just a consultant in, but I mean, Michael Karpovage did a brilliant job with it. He's made a lot of maps, including for the historic district haunted maps, but this one just has another level to it. It may be the very best map he's made, but I highly recommend it to anybody who is thinking about coming to Bonaventure. You should just have that on tap, before you visit.
Yeah, no doubt, because you will call someone eventually and be like, "Hi, I'm lost." And
It's true. It's true. It's kind of a headstone jungle, as I sometimes call it.
so true, and just so beautiful. And you can spend hours and hours just tooling around. I've seen a couple of your tour points about Bonaventure that I want to ask you about. And again, I know you can't give me the whole scoop, but what is this Harry Potter tie to Bonaventure? Is there some sort of...
Yeah, it was rather unexpected. And, I don't know how much has been made of it in the media. I don't think enough. And I think it's interesting that a lot of those Harry Potter actors have since come through Savannah on different projects. And as far as I know, they've yet to come out and make the connection. Certainly, I've not met them to show them or anything. But, the famed poet Conrad Aiken, his daughter, Joan Potter Aiken, she was a writing mentor to J.K. Rowling, and Aiken was born in England. She died there in 2004. She's buried there. Her website's joanaiken.com. It doesn't make notice of it, which is curious, but she stood on her own right as a writer. She doesn't necessarily need Rowling to flatter her or whatever. She wrote 92 children's books around ghost, fantasy, and adventure. Wow. And I think she was Conrad Aiken's first child of his 4. And I'm only familiar with her because I did read fantasy in high school and a little earlier. And so when I heard in 94, I think it was, she was coming to town, to Savannah, to lecture at the Crystal Beer Parlor where her dad liked to hang out. And there's some memorabilia to her on the wall too, or has been. But yeah, what the world didn't know at that time was she had started a writing club in England, and Rowling came in for some wisdom from one of the greats. And
that's awesome.
And so the character name and part of Harry Potter is kind of an homage, to the friendship. And, I'll leave it at that. The rest can be a surprise when you come out with me and get to the plot. But
no doubt.
But I think it's amazing that Savannah has that connection, that without, as I say, the wizard of Conrad Aiken as a writer and, his child, Joan, we just wouldn't know Harry Potter, I don't think, in the same way.
Right.
But
what would it have been?
Yeah, I mean, it's just neat. And there's actually even a deeper material connection. But again, if I'll be saying too much.
That's right. Shush.
That's the tease.
Go see the tour, people. Is there one story in Savannah, in Bonaventure, in Savannah in general, that shook you when you heard it the first time? Is there one that kind of did the spine tingly for you?
the spine tingly. I can tell you. I can tell you anything from the first ghost story that I heard, or which was just kind of an intrigue more than it was a spine tingler. But it came from a man who owned a house in Savannah. There's certainly standout Bonaventure stories that will rock you kind of when you hear them. But I always take that as an invitation more than, run away from it. But I was in a Kroger years ago when I was just a student, and I met this gentleman who I knew from around town. He did newspaper distribution for Creative Loafing. And, he and I were just shooting the rapping line at Kroger. And he lived at the corner of Taylor and Whitaker Street in a house that today has lime green shutters. But anyway, he was talking about how one night he was in bed, and he was from another place. He wasn't from Savannah. This was him kind of almost like, hey, this is what's, secured my fascination with Savannah, my own home. And, it might happen to you, kid, But he said he heard while he was sleeping on the 3rd floor, chimney dust, brick crumblies coming down the chimney shaft.
Okay.
And he thought, okay, there's a rat, there's a, chimney swift, whatever it was. And it kept getting louder and louder and louder, and heavier materials coming down in the fireplace. And he reached over and turned on the lamp. And that's when he heard his wife scream. And he was looking at her And then he sees her staring straight ahead.
Oh, no.
And they're looking into the fireplace, and there is the apparition of a young boy kind of standing there in front of the fireplace. And he walked down to the end of their bed, and he's literally looking at them. And that's when they felt his physical weight pressed down on the end of the bed.
Oh.
And he climbs up onto the bed. They feel the pressure. He basically kind of did what a kid might do when playing. He sort of marked his distance and starts running down the bed, and at which point they went opposite directions. And they saw him stop at the headboard, pivot, mark his distance again. He ran down the bed, and at the edge of the bed, he leapt. He launches from the edge of the bed, and they watched him like float into the fireplace or the chimney and just vanished. And I thought that was just, stunning.
Did they stay in the house after that?
Yeah. And I don't remember if his wife had passed away. This was years earlier. I think he'd lived there since the 70s, but he was telling me about an early time in their lives.
Yeah.
So that was, eye-opening.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. It's so interesting to hear stories from people who have lived here for a long time, and how things are so different, how the landscape has changed as far as like, community and business and students and all the things. And you think about like, if you are a believer in we all have a spirit to us, how many new spirits we're bringing into this place to mix with the old. Like, what do you think about all that?
Well, I think I tell people more and more now that the big word that will become significant in our lives, and I think a lot of people are hearing it, is interdimensional. I think it will prove to be the stuff of everything that is the universe, and that anything from aliens to ghosts will start to factor into the interdimensional concepts. I mean, I've not only seen energy in Savannah move between realms or dimensions, I've seen it with other people. But it kind of harks of what Tamachichi, the Indian king, said to Oglethorpe. And these two men never had better friends in their lives. They were absolutely meant almost to meet, I mean, Tamachichi's 7'1", Oglethorpe's 6'11". But, Tamachichi was an Itzamayan descendant. And, he was familiar with all the, pre-Columbian mounds that were around Savannah, even though they really didn't have a great memory of those ancestors for a lot of different reasons. But, I mean, we have the oldest burial mounds in North America in Savannah. They're pushing, one case, I think it's 6,000 BC. That's amazing. There are about 2,000 of them actually in the whole low country, span. But anyway, that's a heavy duty heritage for Tamachichi to sort of be, genetically, spiritually connected to. But he told Oglethorpe, and Oglethorpe related this, I think, in the Oglethorpe letters, although he didn't fully vet it, which is unfortunate, but maybe some other record will come out. But he told Oglethorpe that his people never lived in what is Savannah's historic district, nor did they live in the area that is now Bonaventure Cemetery, because, as he put it, they were sacred spaces to his people. Now, bear in mind, Tamachichi sold downtown Savannah to Oglethorpe. Right. So, it's like he wasn't that tied to it. But he felt like it had purpose, and that Oglethorpe, had been sent to him in a spiritual kind of way. So there was all that in that sale, if you will. But it says to me that they were used for both ritualistic purposes with solstices, eventually other types of warrior kind of indoctrination rituals, and then also like burial. That was often the mounds started off as ritual spaces and then became burial typically. So, I think that speaks to why Savannah is the way it is in some part. I think that's why Oglethorpe, who is very much a mystic, was drawn to it and settling this place for, in many respects, the Freemasons. And then also why Bonaventure is the way it is.
Right.
How these very lifelike spirits come and go. And, it's layers on layers of mystical intrigue meets modern day, 20th century or whatever society, or, modern day Western society. But to me, it it's something that isn't often discussed like on a ghost tour.
Yeah.
It's about the tragedy in the house of the 18th century, the 19th century, or whatever it is. But it's like, well, could these spirits be way older than that?
Right.
So, I mean, especially because you're talking human sacrifice. Often those mounds, which is a part of the appeal to the Freemasons and these areas, and where they also continue to build magnetic ley lines, because magnetic ley lines is often where, when cultures were establishing rules and laws for their civilizations, they would then sacrifice people in those very specific places. So when an English archaeologist, I can say that word, when an English archaeologist named Marmaduke, who was very flamboyant, he looks like a...
You have to be with that name.
Yeah, if you look at photos of him, he looks like a Ralph Lauren model back in the 20s. But when he dug Hutchinson Island, he found remnants of a cannibalistic culture that had lived there 20,000 years ago.
Really?
And so human sacrifice, yeah, I don't know if you do enough of that, it might leave some bad juju.
It might. Yeah, it might.
And I'm thinking that's the darker spirit stuff sometimes in Savannah.
Yeah, no doubt. It's interesting how, if you look at the history of Tamachichi and you look at, how all of this sort of came about and the relationship you were talking about with Oglethorpe, what it always says to me is how intentional everything was. There was intentional burial. There was intentional placement.
By design.
Yeah.
By design.
Which is just
sacred geometry.
Yeah. Which brings in its own kind of magnetic thing.
Way. I mean, if you think about sometimes, people look at like, why was Georgia's capital in Milledgeville? Why is this state building in this weird spot in the mountains? It's because of the ley lines. I mean, they're just repeating what the ancients were doing. They're building these courthouses to establish law and rules for the civilization they're trying to engineer. So, these are the things that we're intentionally not taught, and we're, I think, intellectually kept from, spiritually kept from, and that's unfortunate. But I try to be a teacher or something in those things, even through my tours. I'm trying to like reawaken some consciousness, and get people to shift their paradigms to just kind of suddenly see what's in front of them that they have not been taught to see. So that's a part of the fun for me.
Oh, no doubt. Yep. I know people there are a good majority of people who are thirsty for that. So it's nice to find the people who will teach the things and not hold back on the information and all of that.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's too good.
Yeah.
So 5 nights of Halloween, going to be fantastic. One of the things I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about is the after hours at Bonaventure, because I mean, you think about how many people who live here, who've lived here, who visit here, generally never get the chance to go behind the gate after it's closed.
Yes.
What is that all about?
Well, I had done ghost tours downtown in Savannah for 15 years. And, I mean, I'm a historian at heart. I just like stories. I'm not, even though I had some TV work and ghost stuff. And, I was the Georgia sectional director of the American Institute of Parapsychology at one point for a year. That was just to add to my own kind of data, and learn more about what people are into. But so I did not open up Bonaventure Cemetery tours in 2001 to specifically address the ghostly nature. It was more of a history buff dive in. But when I approached the city roughly 14 years ago about doing an after hours program, not even knowing if that was possible, but I felt like, why not? Why isn't this happening in Savannah? There was a lot of backstory with that, where in 1999, there was a Haitian witch doctor that sacrificed some animals in Colonial Park Cemetery. It was connected to drugs and murder, and like the occult division and gang division of Fulton County, Atlanta got involved with it. And that they ended up closing all the cemeteries at 5 o'clock because of that. I mean, that was really kind of the reaction. They used to be open 24 hours, and that's the way I think it, in a way, should still be. But, I get it. So I was like, okay, sensitive subject. Here I come with this after hours idea.
I know it's taboo, but.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't know, what the conversations were in the background with the city, but legally it was feasible. It just, they wanted me to know that, I needed to be a good steward. And so that's where it started. And there was a lot of fun with that too. I don't know if I should talk about that, but
I love it.
just really just, like I'll just put it this way, watching eyes.
Yes.
It's most people in their jobs are not accustomed to being followed.
Right.
And I was followed.
Oh, I'm sure.
For at least a decade
Yeah.
to make sure that I was, minding my P's and Q's.
Sure.
But eventually they were like, okay, he's proven his worth to us or whatever. And I'm glad because some of the money, a nice chunk of it actually goes back into the cemetery directly.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I really just wanted to explore more offbeat, darker topics that are related to the cemetery that are not fictitious. But again, I always hold that attitude of respect for the dead. And I'm not there to, criminalize or critique or, all the rest. It's just, there are stories there that I could not share on my daytime tour, and maybe aren't, fitting for the daytime tour, not what people are after during the daytime. So that's where the heart of it was born. And, strange to say, I've had the only, after hours tour in cemetery for 14, 15 years now.
Mm-hmm. They don't have time to vet all these other people like they did you.
I don't know. I will say that it's expense heavy. It's
I'm
very
sure.
expense heavy.
Yeah.
And so it's not a smart business decision away from someone looking at it like, oh, wow, I don't know how that guy does it, but I can't afford that.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it because I'm stubborn. I'm a Taurus. So I'm
That'll do
stubborn
it.
for the
Yeah.
things I'm passionate about.
That'll do
And I will keep doing it until I can't. And it's been beautiful because whether people know it or not, I help the cemetery quite a bit by being a positive steward there and putting money back into the place. And, in so many ways, it's allowing me to start a nonprofit that will be dedicated to helping cemeteries across Georgia. So for my critics, I would just say, give me another 10 years and see how I'm doing. But
Right.
I've been really working hard to embed those environments.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, just digging into your bio a little bit, it's I love how much you can see that, if you go to Shannon Scott Tours, you can check out all that information.
Thanks.
And you can see your heart in that.
Thank you.
And that's a really beautiful thing because you're not just focused on Bonaventure, you're actually focused on lots of cemeteries and stories from not just Savannah. And, you're looking at stories from the South and other places that don't get enough as much, light on.
Thank you. I mean, I always tell people, and again, this is kind of blanket, but there's a truth to it. Show me a cemetery without tourism and I'll show you a rundown cemetery.
Yeah.
So it takes a village.
Right.
And it takes all kinds of villager types to rebuild those cemeteries that are lost and forgotten. And there's probably no way that we can totally address all of them as a culture. But, we can start with some of these big ones and work our way around.
Yeah.
But, you talk about connections. A few years ago, I was up in Richmond, Virginia, at one of the greats, Hollywood Cemetery.
That's my old hometown.
Right.
I love that.
That's one of the greats.
Oh, it's
It's so
beautiful.
beautiful. And I found that there was a gentleman buried there that had committed suicide in Bonaventure in the 1880s. He poisoned himself. And I just think, it's like, you go to this cemetery in Virginia and you find that there's this dramatic thing that happened, to that person there in Bonaventure.
That's crazy.
That's the stuff that happens all the time when you study cemeteries.
Yeah. And you can just put all these, tie these things together. And it does a lot of things, once you start digging into the stories, it's so good.
It's fun.
So tell me about the 5 nights of Halloween.
Okay.
Can one person go to every night of the 5 nights of Halloween? How do we do this?
Well, I mean, I will say that, you'll find that each story night is different, particularly Saturday, the 28th, and then Tuesday night, October 31st. But instead of the 2-hour lantern tour, that is the ordinary after hours, you're getting 3, which goes by so fast.
Oh, I bet.
mean, and I keep the energy high and you will not be bored. You'll want to stay 5 hours by the time we're done 8. But, so Saturday's a little special with the dinner and a cemetery event. We will, of course, do the 3-hour tour, which you can also just do the tour that night, too, although the tickets are a little more limited. And the same kind of goes with the limited tickets with the dinner portion, the entertainment portion. But we'll do the tour, and then we go over to Erica Davis Low Country, shout out.
Which is not far at all from Bonaventure.
Right around the corner from Erica Davis. And we have kind of an exclusive setting there after they've closed to the regular patrons. My buddy DJ Blue Ice will be spinning, and
nice.
he did the music for my documentary film America's Most Haunted City. And he's one of my best friends and a talented composer, musician, DJ. But, and, between Q&A with me and people, dining and having some wine or whatever, we'll also be giving out some really healthy prizes. A lot of these prizes are handmade art pieces that have kind of a Gothic theme. And they're high quality. They're done by an artist named Aaron Chandler, who graduated SCAD, and he lives up in Canton, Georgia. And I wish I could keep most of these things. They're just so beautiful. Furniture and lamps. And
oh, wow.
It's just really neat stuff. It's high order stuff. So, that alone is what we'd like to say is worth the ticket price. But I think it's just a great night for someone that maybe doesn't want to go downtown and just, party and wants something a little more, sophisticated, or however you want to look at it.
Yeah. So
that's Saturday. I mean, that'll run till about 10:30, from 5 to 10:30. And then Halloween night. I mean, we have Sunday. Sunday night is also really special. That's my favorite night in Bonaventure, by the way. It's like the town's a little quieter, a little sleepier. Bonaventure is a little more serene and surreal than even, on ordinary nights or regular weekend nights. Sunday is like the most unique night. So I would encourage anybody that's thinking about the Lantern Tour, itself, to check out Sunday. But Monday night too, we're maximizing Monday with some Lantern Tour action. And then Halloween night is like the big night in many ways. It's the Lantern Tour. You can also opt for the concert that night at Southbound Brewery. They have been gracious to us and really helpful, but we have, DJ Blue Ice is playing again, which is awesome. And then we have the Savannah husband-wife duo, Beneath Trees, and they're kind of like, I always call them like a garage rock version of White Stripes.
Oh, fun.
And it's like, he plays the drums, she plays the guitar, they both sing and rock it out. They make a lot of noise, and it's great.
I love it.
So they're the opening act to the feature act, which is Vision Video. And these guys are on a meteoric rise, man. I mean, Fangoria magazine just produced and published their video and re-released a single with them. They just got a 5-page spread in Fangoria magazine.
Oh, wow.
And they're goth rock sensations from Athens, Georgia, and very musically gifted and diverse, but have that sort of like Cramps, kind of attitude with a little bit of the musical sound of The Cure and the Smiths and Depeche Mode and Susie and all that. So I'm really excited to have landed them. I mean, I built the whole concert night really around them, and then they're heading off to a European tour later that week. But anyway, that's going to be a fun night. It runs till about midnight, and Stardust Pixies will be there. Stardust Pixies, Jamie, the head there, she said that she's going to do something really Halloween ritualistically unique for the event.
Okay.
Which I will not give it away, but I'm telling you, based on what she told me, I think it's going to be really surreal and very Gothic Halloween.
Okay.
So that's exciting. And just for those that want to know, like some of the extras, like with the Lantern Tours all 5 nights, you get some signed poster art that is a one-off poster that was done by Megan Morgan, who does a good bit of the artwork for the posters. Like I kind of art direct and she adds this or that, but we've got this unique poster that everyone gets. Everyone gets a copy of the Bonaventure illustrated map to take home, which is a neat thing. And so, we really just trying to give away some Halloween goodies to everybody that, is participating across all 5 nights.
Right. No doubt.
So that's a lot of information.
Yeah.
But
you're not busy at all right now, obviously.
That's the scope.
I would imagine one of your biggest helpers who's been helping you through all of the stuff, Kelsey McGee, will we be able to see?
Kelsey McGee will probably make the Dinner in a Cemetery appearance. And of course, she's my 12-year-old pit bull mix that I've had as a rescue from animal control in Savannah when I volunteered there 12 years ago. It's hard to believe.
She is adorable.
Thank you. She's real special. And of course, she, in her, 10th year was diagnosed with spinal cancer, and it got into her leg, and that ended up becoming a blessing. But all the doctors were just like, yeah, get ready for the end. It's over. And I'm a discernment person. I listen to energy. Kelsey was not saying that she wanted to go. I was also accepting that she might die in 3 months or less, but her spirit was just saying something else. And I was blessed with a lot of good help and a lot of good friends of Kelsey in the medical perspective. And, we just kept saying no, so we went to prepared meals and alternative treatments and supplementation, and really got her back to a place where she was feeling better. And then oddly enough, she broke her leg when she was excitedly getting up one day, and it turned out that the cancer had gotten into her leg. Before, we were not able to biopsy it because of where it was in the spine.
Right.
But now in the leg, it was broken. They could get at it and see what it was, and it turned out it was one of the most treatable cancers.
That's amazing.
So it was amazing. And then they were like, well, probably have to take the leg. And again, I was like, I don't know. Kelsey doesn't want to get rid of the leg. So the surgeons roundtabled in North Carolina about how to approach this. And they were like, it's kind of 50-50. Like, if you want to pay for it, we'll wing it. We'll see if it works. And so sure enough, they were able to basically connect the bone and get everything to kind of work again. And 2 Junes ago, she suddenly started walking. So she was paralyzed really, halfway down her back, going down. And it was so neat to just see her stand up and wag her tail. And so now she does kind of like a walk hop.
Yeah.
But, she swims and the whole thing. And just a real miracle dog.
No doubt.
And I don't have any kids, so that's the extent.
Yeah.
Other than my cat and 2 tortoises. But she's real special. So yeah, she has had a little bit of a YouTube video or two called Kelsey McGee's Boneyard Facts.
Love it.
And then she will be at the dinner in the cemetery.
Oh, she sounds
But I've told people every gratuity that I've received in cash for the past 2 years has gone to her care. And that's been a big help.
Oh, I'm a huge believer in letting your animals say what they want to say.
A little bit.
And be around how long they want to be around.
That's it. So I'm blessed. We're a blessed family. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love that. I'm sure a lot of people want to come and see you and spend more time with you and ask you all the questions. Like the serial killer with the Houdini twist, Savannah's role in the Da Vinci Code. I mean, come on. So many things that I know you'll be talking about on your tours. So the 5 nights of Halloween, it kicks off tomorrow, and make sure if you can make it to the big night, Halloween night, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to be at. So yay. We're going to check it out. Anyway, check him out. ShannonScottTours.com is the place to go. Thank you so much for spending your pre-Halloween with us on the Made of Savannah podcast.
Thank you. It was exciting to be invited. So I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah, us too. Thanks.
Happy Halloween.
This season, we're proud to welcome our partner, Daniel Reed Hospitality, with iconic restored landmark locations in historic downtown Savannah, Georgia. The richness of Savannah's restaurant and cocktail scene is a constant conversation among locals and visitors. Daniel Reed is home to some of the most visited and popular concepts in the hostess city: the Public Kitchen and Bar, Artillery, Franklin's, Local 1110, Perch, Soho South, and magnificent catering and events. Home to the best chefs in the South, award-winning team members from creative to operations, with food and drinks that not only complement every emotion, but also make you fall in love with the moment. Daniel-Reed.com. So satisfy your curiosity, fill up your tank, and write home about it. The Public Kitchen and Bar, Artillery, Franklin's, Local 1110, Perch, Soho South. This is Daniel Reed Hospitality. When you stop in, make sure you mention the Made of Savannah podcast. So go ahead and share this podcast with a friend, family member, coworker, neighbor, area business owner. You get the picture. If you have an intriguing Savannah story to tell or know someone who does, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at Made of Savannah. You can subscribe on any of your favorite platforms. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, and many more. Thanks for listening to Made of Savannah. The welcome mat is always out.